It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, December 28th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Tuesday? We've got some coronavirus updates, current news from around the world, looking into the book of Matthew 25, and let's testify from Thule in Australia. So, how are you guys doing? It is Tuesday already. We got Monday in the books, and I hope you guys are just enjoying this week. Really thankful that you guys have joined us here on the Morning Star Drive. And of course, we want to build the community each and every day. And thank you for all the people that have been commenting and chatting. I really enjoy to see that there's more, more building of a community and people contacting each other from different countries. I really look at this as something for the future. Social media was made by God, and of course the world uses it for their reasons, but we need to use it to spread the gospel. We need to use it to build a community with all these countries that speak English together, and I hope that we can use it well here on the Morning Star Drive. This morning, I had a crazy dream. So, I had a crazy dream the day before, but I had today's dream was even crazier because it was really long. Well, at least it felt long. And I was in a spaceship. And there's a crew, a bunch of us are all members, and I was in charge of the defense system, like short-range defense system, and then there's someone in charge of like long-range defense systems, and all of a sudden, like someone tried to take over the ship, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? But then eventually, in my head, I was like, oh, let's be reasonable because this person's also a member. So when I talked to this person, eventually it came down to, oh, why? What's the reason why you want to take over the ship? And just when it felt like it was getting safe is when I woke up, and then it was time for pre-dawn. So it was quite an intense dream. I don't really know what it means. It could just be a dream that God uses to wake me up. But it kind of felt meaningful because the way it ended. Like, of course, we're on spaceships and stuff like that, and that's a little bit different. But yeah, by the end of it, we're kind of realizing, oh, wait, everyone has a reason why they want to do something crazy. This guy's on our team too, so let's try to figure it out. So that was quite interesting. So I woke up, and it allowed me to wake up very, very thinking like, whoa, what just happened? What does that mean? And then I was like, oh, it's pre-dawn time, so I got up for pre-dawn. But there is something that I'm very, very thankful for. I realized yesterday. Because I was thinking back, and I was in prayer last night, and I was thinking about all the different things that I did. And of course, most of the time I was in Malaysia for 8 of the 12 months. But the crazy part was this. So guys, think about this, how crazy this is. I was in KL, right? So I was in Malaysia, and I stayed there for 8 months. And of course, we were kind of like in, what's that word? Quarantine? Not quarantine. We're locked down, right? So I'm not meeting a ton of people. And then after that, I fly over to San Francisco for a week, and I meet people there. Then I drive down to LA, right? And then I stay there for like a month. And then I went to Houston for a wedding. Right, meet a bunch of other people there. Then I come back to LA, fly back to LA. Then I drive over to Las Vegas, drive back to Los Angeles, and then during that time I'm meeting tons of different people, and then I fly over to Vancouver. So that's like 6 different cities. But my traveling was like the flight to San Francisco, the drive to LA, flight to Houston, flight to LA, drive to Vegas, drive to LA. Then flight to Vancouver. That means I took 7 major trips over the last year during a pandemic, and 6 different cities. And this is, kind of like, whoa. And when I took my PCR test right before coming to Vancouver, I was negative. Now, I didn't realize how much God was helping me and how much God is protecting us, but I did a lot of traveling. 6 different cities, 7 different trips. I was like, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 different trips. So I am so thankful to God that I'm still negative, right? That right before, I took it a day before my flight to Canada, and I was still negative on my PCR test, which is like 99 point something percent accuracy rate, right? So that's something that I was like, wow, I am super thankful to God. And if I didn't think about this, clearly, I probably wouldn't have met a lot of people like, oh my gosh, I can endanger my nephews. I can endanger all these people from the coronavirus. But ultimately, God protected me. And it's true. God says, be careful on your own. And there might have been some areas I wasn't so careful with, maybe. But yeah, it was great. So I'm super thankful to God for protecting me during all these trips, and I'm still negative on the PCR test. So really grateful and thankful for that. Even my brother, when I got back, my brother picked me up and he's like, oh yeah, someone from my work got COVID. I hung around them, but he's taken like 3 tests already, so he's already negative too. So I'm thankful that I was able to spend time with my brother also. This Thursday, of course, we have another talk on the Espresso Sky channel, but it's going to be a New Year's greeting, right? So it's snowing and crazy out here, but there's a lake over here called Lake Lafarge or Lafarge Lake, and it's famous because there's lights everywhere around this lake. And it's tons of people come to see it, and it's like lots of people walking around this lake, this frozen lake, and everything else. So I'll be doing a greeting from there. So you guys get to see kind of and it's only about 5-minute drive from my house, so it's very, very close to my house. So go ahead and check out that greeting, the New Year's greeting. And remember, last Sunday edition, I did my own interview. So great for myself. It was good for me to be able to testify before this year ends and give glory to God through my testimony, and to give thanks through it. So go ahead, check that out. Super fun, insightful. Hope you guys really enjoy it. So make sure to check out the Sunday edition this week. That's mine, right? And I will do another one next week, and that's going to be more of a story. One of these big, like probably the biggest episode between me and Son's Name. So that one's going to be a really, really fun one to watch also. Okay, so let's get this show started on the road. On this awesome Tuesday, we're going to start off, guys, it's going to be awesome. We're going to start off with a brand new single. This is new, guys. Brand new single from Juice-Star Aiden Verity from New Zealand. It is I Get Excited. So, after I kind of introduce all the 3 songs, there's Juice-Star Aiden Verity, I Get Excited. And then there's Man and Groom from the Paper Music Associates in Korea with Mangwon-dong Pongye. And I think Mangwon is the area or the region he's talking about. Pongye, I think, is lightning. It's thunder or lightning. I think it's lightning, right? And then the third song is Kumichang from Japan, and that's a song for fathers featuring Ranghee. But just to let you guys know that we're going to play Juice-Star Aiden Verity's song first, the new single called I Get Excited. But you're going to hear her explain her song first before we get into it. So we're going to hear it at least twice this week. So I hope you guys really enjoy this. This is Juice-Star Aiden Verity from New Zealand with I Get Excited. And we're going to listen to her give her own explanation of why she wrote this song.
Hi Morning Star Drive, this is Juice-Star Aiden Verity. I just released a new song called I Get Excited. I wrote this song in January 2020 during the first 15 days of giving glory to God. And I wrote it because one of my church's activities was, let's have a day where we stand before the Trinity at church and we make a confession. Instead of giving a speech, I decided I would express it through music. I really hope that all of you can make this song your confession towards the Trinity, towards the Lord, that just thinking about spiritual things, just thinking about the Trinity, we get so excited that we want to keep living this life of faith really joyfully no matter what.
Honey, I've been at work all day. It's all slog, no fun and no play. Writing this, so when I get home, we can go through one by one alone. We got Scrabble and Pluto on the shelf. You can name the game something else. We got a world all to ourselves. You know what I'm thinking, walking up to this. I get excited thinking about you, thinking about you. what is fine and we can take our own sweet time. We got feelings I can't even say, that you can take me all the way. We got forever, no need to rush. Oh sorry honey, did I make you blush? It's just I get excited thinking about you, what you wanna do. I get excited, can't live without you, can't live without you. I wouldn't want to. I'm going crazy. I must get me some more of your love drug. Excited, excited, excited. Yeah, I want you. I get excited. I get excited. Woo! I get excited, thinking about you, what you wanna do. I get excited, can't live without you, can't live without you. I wouldn't want to. I'm going crazy. I must get me some more of your love drug. Excited, excited, excited. Yeah, I want you. I get excited.
저게 나는 달라 왜 이렇게 느려 표저지렁 내장 같은 네 모습 좀 봐라 한숨 나나 베이스 더 엄가라 넌 절대 못 따라오지 이 가라 캐스터 냈지만 넌 잡아 내게 스며든 주가 말씀하신 네 빠르게 살려면 느리게 기도 또 하나 말씀은 너에게는 높 맡기는 이기는 네가 못 느끼면 네 위치인적인 다락 악마 손잡은 넌 바라 다시 파스 빼가 뻔한 피스톨 들어봐라 짜프짜프 같은 애들 네 실력은 딱 사무자자 배달만 네 얼굴에 못 뱉어냈지 내 랩핑은 할 자리 정확히 노린 집 같이 하는 사람 몰려오지 택배로 보낼게 하기스
that was Kuma-chang from Japan with A Song for Fathers featuring Ranghi. Before that, Man and Groom from PMA in Korea with the Mangwon-dong Bonge. And of course, featured artist of the day, brand new single just came out, Justar Aiden Verity from New Zealand. I get excited. I'm glad that she's been able to really cooperate with us over here. She's sending in audios of what her songs are about. So I'm super excited about this. We're gonna play that again this week. Really exciting that Justar is able to really invest and put a lot into this, and she's putting out songs 2-3 times a year, right? Maybe even more. I know that that's a lot of money, that's a lot of work that she's putting in, so I'm super grateful and thankful that she's able to do this. All right, so that means we're going to get into the news going on for today. And of course, why do we go into the news? 3 major reasons. Number 1 is we need to see the condition of the world. What is the world like right now? Number 2 is what is God doing in the world? And number 3 is when we see these really difficult and sad things to listen to, what are the things that we can comfort God with? He's given us free will, and some people use the free will to just make God happy, and others just use that free will to terrify or to just sadden God so much. So I hope it's something that we can really think about together and be able to comfort God's heart more than anything else. Okay, so let's get into the coronavirus updates for today. And this is some good news from the global update. The global update is 280.8 million cases with 5.41 million deaths. Now, the mortality rate has dropped to 1.92%, which is a 0.03% drop, which is huge. And that's a good sign. Now, why is that a good sign? It's a good sign. It means that even though there's a lot of infections going on, there's not a lot of deaths, because 1.92% is a mortality rate. So what we're seeing now is a lot of infections, but a lot of mild symptoms, people not going to the hospitals, which actually means that the mortality rate's dropping at an even faster rate. So by the end of this week, by the new year, we might even see that drop to 1.8 something, right? So I'm really thankful about that. So let's take a look at the top 5 countries going by daily death rates. So Russia's on top, and once again, another day under 1,000 deaths in a day. It's Russia, 968 deaths with 23,000 cases. India comes in second with 315, so it's only a third, right? 315 deaths with 6,500 cases. Vietnam in third, 207 deaths with 15,000 cases. Turkey, 173 deaths with 20,000 cases. And then the Ukraine rounds up the top 5 with 138 deaths with 2,800 cases. Now, let's take a look at North America and where do we stand? And it's actually much better than I thought. So it is Mexico that's on top, not the U.S., Mexico, because we're going by daily death rates, right? So Mexico has 89 deaths in a single day, and that's 7th in the world, and 2,900 deaths. And then the U.S. comes in second. They're number 14 in the world with 52 deaths in a day, with 96,000 cases. And then Canada is 67th in the world with only 3 deaths and 10,000 cases. So we do see that the vaccinations, and we do see that this Omicron, which has now become the dominant variant even in North America, it's not as harmful as we thought it was. So that is kind of good news for that. So let's get into the top 3 news going around the world, and we're going to start off with the U.S. And there are snowstorms in California. I just got back from there, right? So California and other western states battered with heavy storms, right? And they're leaving thousands without power. So almost 76 inches of snow fell in parts of Northern California in a 24-hour span. Listen to that, guys. 76 centimeters in 24 hours. Eddie, over there in San Francisco, hope you're doing okay over there with all the snow and stuff. And it's causing blackouts, road closures, and including this 112-kilometer stretch of Interstate 80 in Nevada that is closed, right? Avalanche warnings are in effect across 6 states, and over the weekend, Southern California was hit by rainstorms. All right, so the north got the snow, and the south, Southern California, where I was living, is only rainstorms. So power lines were snapping and streets were flooded. More than 1.8 inches of rain fell over 24 hours in San Marcos, near the Santa Barbara County. So we're seeing a lot of rain coming down too from these snowstorms that are going down to the south. So the National Weather Service in Reno, Nevada said snowstorms would remain heavy over Sunday night and well into Monday, and forecasters have warned that travel could prove difficult in the region for several days. Now, avalanche warnings were put into effect on Sunday for parts of Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Colorado, and California. The storms created widespread areas of unstable snow. So authorities near Reno, we do have members there too, said 3 people were injured in a 20-car weekend pileup on the interstate amid limited visibility. So power cuts affected residents in Washington, Oregon, and other areas, although Northern California was the worst hit. Power outage reported 28,000 power cuts there in the early hours of Monday local time, mostly in northern coastal counties and those on the Nevada border. So meanwhile, in Montana, the National Weather Service warned that dangerously cold wind chills could cause frostbite on exposed skin in as little as 5 minutes. So with the wind chill, guess what the temperature is over there in Montana? It is minus 48 Celsius. That is crazy, okay? So there is one benefit. One benefit of the storms in California will be that it will replenish the Sierra snowpack and accounts for about 30% of California's fresh water supply and had been at dangerously low levels after weeks of dry weather, which means this is actually a good thing, right, in one sense. So the state's Department of Water Resources reported on Christmas Eve that the snowpack was now between 114 and 137% of normal ranges, with more snow expected to fall. So that's great news for their water supply over there in California itself. Now, the West Coast is battered by heavy storms. Many southern states have been experiencing unusually warm temperatures, with dozens of cities on track for their warmest December on record. So that's quite interesting because near Texas, the Texas border with Oklahoma, the temperatures over there right now is like 32, right? And Houston's at 27, which is really, really high for wintertime, okay? Second in the news, we're going to go to the Pope, right? Pope Francis Urbi at Orbi, he has an address, right? So let's just say Pope Francis. Right? And what is his message? Pope Francis has warned that the world is becoming so desensitized to crisis and suffering that they are now happening while hardly being noticed. In his annual Christmas Day message, the pontiff pointed to ongoing turmoil in Syria, Yemen, and Iraq, as well as in areas of Africa, Europe, and Asia. And he also said the effects of the pandemic threatened efforts to resolve conflicts on an international level, and he spoke outdoors again this year after making his speech indoors last year. Thousands of Catholic faithful wearing face masks amid COVID precautions watched in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican as the Pope delivered his Urbi et Orbi address from the balcony of the Basilica. Pope Francis warned about the social consequences of the pandemic, saying there was a growing tendency to withdraw, to stop making an effort to encounter others and do things together. And he also said on the international level, too, there is the risk of avoiding dialogue, the risk that this complex crisis will lead to taking shortcuts rather than setting out on the longer path to resolve conflicts. So he also said that we continue to witness a growing number of conflicts, crises, and disagreements. And he said that these never seem to end. And by now, we hardly even notice these crises. And we've become so used to them that immense tragedies are being passed over in silence. He singled out Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, where an enormous tragedy overlooked by everyone has silently gone on for years. And he also urged people to keep in mind continuing tensions between Israel and the Palestinians and the unprecedented economic and social crisis gripping Lebanon. So turning to Asia, the Pope asked God to comfort the people of Afghanistan, who for more than 40 years have been sorely tested by conflicts, and to sustain the people of Myanmar, where intolerance and violence not infrequently target the Christian community and its places of worship. And he also prayed for peace to come to conflicts in other trouble spots around the world, including the Ukraine, Ethiopia, and the Sahel, which has been a front line in the war against Islamist militancy for almost a decade. Now, earlier, Pope Francis, who is 85, marked Christmas Eve with Mass at the Basilica, where he urged followers to show more compassion towards the poor and to value the little things in life. So he said on that night, on this night of love, may we have only one fear, that of offending God's love, hurting him by despising the poor with our indifference. So that was the Pope's message on Christmas weekend. And last but not least, we got some news in Korea. So the South Korea's ex-president, the first female president, Park Geun-hye, she has been pardoned. Right? So South Korean President Moon Jae-in, the current president, has pardoned former President Park Geun-hye, who was serving a 22-year prison term for a vast corruption scandal. The 69-year-old was convicted of abuse of power and coercion in 2018 after she was impeached the previous year. And she was her country's first democratically elected leader to be forced from office. So Park Geun-hye has been hospitalized 3 times this year due to chronic shoulder and lower back pain. And local news outlet Yonhap said Park, who was among the beneficiaries of Mr. Moon's special amnesty for the new year, had been placed on the list due in part to her poor health. So the announcement has come as a surprise as President Moon Jae-in had previously ruled out a pardon. South Korea's first female prime minister, Han Myung-suk, okay, so she's the first prime minister, right, who served a 2-year prison sentence from 2015 to 2017 for bribery, was also exonerated by the government on Friday. So in 2018, right, Park was found guilty of 16 out of 18 charges, most of which related to bribery and coercion, and the court ruled that she had colluded with her close friend, Choi Soon-sil, to pressure conglomerates such as electronics giant Samsung and retail chain Lotte to give millions of dollars to foundations run by Choi. In addition, Park was found guilty of leaking confidential presidential documents to her longtime friend, and the ex-leader has always denied wrongdoing. And Park was initially sentenced to a total of 30 years in jail and fined about $16.8 million, but a high court later reduced the fine and the term to 15 years for corruption and another 5 years for abuse of power. The whole affair prompted numerous mass protests in South Korea, many of which called for Park to step down, as it laid bare the shadowy links between topmost echelons of politics and the heads of conglomerates in South Korea. The case also paved the way for the liberal Moon Jae-in into power after Park, as he campaigned on a promise to root out corruption in high office. So that is quite interesting that she is now out. She got the presidential pardon. Very interesting. Not sure what is happening there. Okay, so that is the top 3 news going on in the world. So let's get into sporting news. And of course, I told you yesterday, I'm going to go into the World Junior Hockey Championships under 20 years old, and some of them are in the NHL. Top 10 countries in the world competing. I watched the game last night. It was Canada versus the Czech Republic. Canada, we are like one of the favorites. It's either US or Canada basically right now. And we were losing 3-1 after the first period, and then all of a sudden we came back, roaring back, scored 5 goals, and the end score was 6-3. Owen Power scores a hat trick. So great game by the Canadians. The US too, also the reigning defending champions. They beat Slovakia 3-2. They were already up 3-0 by the third period, and then Slovakia scored 2 goals there. Sweden beats Russia 6-3, and then Finland beats Germany 3-1. So go Canada, yes. All right. In NFL news, we had big slate of sports over there on Sunday. Tampa Bay beats the Carolina Panthers 32-6. Antonio Brown back, first game back from suspension, 10 receptions for 101 yards, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers clinched the NFC South. Buffalo beats New England 33-21. Both now have a 96 record, and they both lead the AFC East. The LA Rams beat the Minnesota Vikings 30-23. LA Rams are 11-4, and they are now first in the NFC West and also in the entire NFC. Cincinnati scores. They're not number 1 in the NFC. They are number 2 because the Green Bay Packers are number 1, right? In other news, we had Cincinnati Bengals defeating the Baltimore Ravens 41-21. The Cincinnati Bengals surprisingly are first in the AFC North, but Joey Burrows was snubbed for the Pro Bowl, and on this day he passes for 525 yards, which is ridiculous. 4 touchdown passes. This is a record for Cincinnati, most passing yards in a single game. Kansas City Chiefs, first in the AFC West, defeat Pittsburgh 36-10. Mahomes passed for 3 TDs. And Dallas just a shellacking over Washington 56-14. They have clinched a playoff berth. They are 11-4, and they are first in the NFC East. All right, so that is the NFL news. And last but not least, we'll look at the NBA. What happened over the Christmas weekend? We had the Philadelphia 76ers defeating the Washington Wizards 117-96. Joel Embiid 36.13 rebounds. Memphis beats Sacramento 127-102. Cleveland just obliterates Toronto 144-99. Chicago beats Indiana 113-105. Zach LaVine leading all scores with 13 points. And then the Denver Nuggets defeat the LA Clippers 103-100. Nikolai Jokic, 26 points, 22 rebounds, 8 assists. He is, it's very rare, but it's another game over 20 points, over 20 rebounds, over 5 assists in 2 straight games. The last person to do that was Charles Barkley, and you know how old he is, right? So that is the top 3 news in sports, top 3 news going around the world, and of course, the coronavirus updates, all right? So that means we're going to get into the golden time, and this golden time, I want to play some songs to inspire us for this ending of the year, and we're going to start off with that great song by Pastor Joan, What Faith Has Given Me. Before that, My Life, and of course, What You've Done For Me, all right? So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
확신에 확신을 더했네 절대 변하지 않네. 무슨 일이 있어도 어떤 일이 와도 절대 흔들림 없네. 믿음은 더 강해지네. 절대 변하지 않네. 무슨 일이 있어도 어떤 일이 와도 절대 흔들림 없네. 믿음은 더 강해지네. 절대 변하지 않네. 무슨 일이 있어도 어떤 일이 와도 절대 흔들림 없네. 믿음은 더 강해지네. 절대 흔들림 없네. 믿음은 더 강해지네. 더 강해지네. 믿음은 더
I'm rowing and I carry 1,000 years of hopes and dreams in this boat with me, knowing that someday they'll come to be. I am more than words, I bring them to life. More than words alone, I speak through deeds. Although my eyes and body are small, I can understand both this world and the next. I see everything my hands and feet are hands and feet of fire. They're more than I can use in just one life. I'll live without regret. Yes, I will use my life for my family, nation, the world. For more than just myself, I'll live for heaven's will. I will live for God without regret. I carry 1,000 years of hopes and dreams in this boat with me, knowing that someday they'll come to be. I am more than words, I bring them to life. More than words alone, I speak through deeds. Although my eyes and body one life. I'll live without regret. Yes, I will use my life for my family, nation, the world. For more than just myself, I'll live for heaven's will. I will live for God without regret. I'll live without regret. Yes, I will use my life for my family, nation, the world. For more than just myself, I'll live for heaven's will. I will live for God without regret. I will live for God without regret. I will live for God without regret.
Oh, how I long to bring you joy. That is the greatest joy for me. For all time, Lord, I want to laugh and smile with you. For within your brilliant smile, I feel the love you have for me. When you laugh, I can feel you love me so. And as I come to know you more, and as I come to love you more, my heart aches as I think of all that you've enjoyed. Now my tears are streaming down, but I hide my tears behind a smile. From now on, I'll become a source of joy for you. When I look at you, I smile for you, Lord. Even when my life is difficult, I'll never waver in my heart. When I think of you, I turn away and cry. But I'll only show my smiling face, for I know that's what you've done for me. Lord, when I see your smiling face, a fire burns within my heart. It's the spark of a love that lasts eternally. And the heart I had at first, I won't forget that feeling now. Oh my Lord, I will live embracing you. And as I love you endlessly, and as I act upon your word, till the end, I will be a source of
And what a great song. That is What You've Done For Me. And I think this is a great song, especially for the end of the year, because we do need to think about all the things that God has done for us for this past year, 2021. It's already the 28th, right, guys? Which means we have 3 days left. Friday is New Year's Eve, and then Saturday we go into the new year of 2022, the year of prayer and the Word. So I hope that all of us are getting ourselves ready through prayer and through listening to the words in a powerful way. Okay, so let's get into the word study for today. And of course, every single Tuesday, what are we doing? We are doing scripture analysis, or more than scripture analysis, looking at the background of the scriptures that we have for this week. And of course, we are in Matthew chapter 25, and we have that great parable of the talents about a man going on a journey, right? And he calls in his servants and he entrusts them like 5 talents, 2 talents, and 1 talents. So I hope that's something that, we know this story really well. So let me go into some background of Matthew, into the background of this chapter, Matthew 25, and then we will get into something very interesting is what the former faith looks at this parable, how they see this parable, and how Sunseam sees it. Okay, so let's take a look at the background of Matthew. We'll get into this very quickly, and of course, they call the book of Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, is called the Gospel of the King. Okay, and it was most likely written to convince the Jewish people that Jesus was their Messiah, the long-awaited King. And we assume that this gospel is written by Matthew. And of course, when you look at how Matthew wrote this book, it's about proving to Jewish people with Old Testament references that Jesus was the one that fulfilled all the things, and he is a long-awaited King. Right now, the bishop in Hierapolis, okay, his name is Papias. So we're going to look at some historians of the past Christianity, right? In Christianity, Papias was quoted by the 4th century church historian Eusebius that the Logia, or the sayings of Jesus, preserved by Matthew, was written in either Hebrew or Aramaic. And some believe this record of Jesus was originally written in Greek and then translated into other languages. Now, the date of this gospel could be after 70 AD due to the destruction of Jerusalem. And there was another writer named Hobbes. And he writes that if one accepts the deed of Jesus Christ, there's no reason why it could not have been written prior to that time, right before AD 70, right? But that's kind of like a short background. So what is the overview of Matthew chapter 25? Matthew 25 is basically 3 parables, right? So the 3 sections: the parable of the 10 virgins, parable of the talents, and the parable and the sheep and the goats. Okay, so the first parable is a story about 10 young women taking their lamps to meet the bridegroom for a nighttime wedding. 5 of them brought oil and were able to go into the wedding banquet with the door shutting behind them. The other 5 forgot oil, and while they were buying more, the doors were shut on them and they were not allowed in. And the man said he did not know them. Okay, and obviously we know this is a parable, it's a metaphor, right? The second parable is the one for this week about the master's servants. He gave each of them different amounts of precious metal. One servant received the weight of 5 talents, the other was 2, and the other was 1. The person with 5 talents invests his wealth to produce 5 more, right? The second servant received 2 talents and was able to produce 2 more. And of course, we know the last servant got 1 talent and was frightened, so he buried and hid the single talent. And thus he did not produce any more than he started with. The last servant was fired, and the 1 talent he had been given, to invest, was taken away from him because he did not multiply what was given to him. And God gives us, basically he gave it to the person with 10 talents, right? So God is giving us the tools to go out and be fruitful. Basically, this story, it says in the former faith, teaches us to go out and multiply with what is given to us by God. Now, of course, the last one is the story of the sheep and the goats, and that is a metaphor for a shepherd separating the sheep from the goats, just like God will separate the righteous from the non-righteous. The righteous on the right will have served Christ through serving others, and because of this, they will be allowed into the kingdom of heaven. And those who are not righteous on the left will have not served Christ through serving others, and they will not be able to enter the kingdom of heaven. And all 3 of these stories are about how to live in eternity with Christ. So quite interesting here, okay? So let's take a look at just the background of Matthew 25, right? Just this chapter itself. And like we said, this book was most likely written by Matthew himself. And, according to other historians, the reason we can assume is Matthew is because the parables harmonize with Matthew's theology and his style. Okay, so the literary context of this chapter has been said to be allegory, and it's obvious that he's using parables. Now, originally, these parables may have come from Jesus himself. And then, Matthew's just repeating them. But we can't really know for sure since we were not in that place at that moment. And it's only speculation and faith. And the first and last parables do not have parables in other gospels. Right, so the second parable, the one that we're doing today from this week's scriptures, which is a parable of the talents, has a parallel in Luke chapter 19. So that one has a very, very similar one. And the last parable, the sheep and the goats, is the last instruction from Jesus in the first gospel. And basically, it's kind of the last story before the story of the passion begins. And of course, that's the story of him going to the cross, right? So that's quite interesting. That's a little bit of the background of Matthew 25 itself. So let's take a look at the purpose of Matthew 25. Okay, this is coming from the former faith. So I want you guys to think about it in this way. It's coming from the former faith and how much more we understand and know. So like Matthew 24, Matthew 25 continues with the series of parables. And the purpose of the parables in this chapter is for Jesus to give time between his death, resurrection, and his second coming. If you pay attention to these parables, you will see that the other purpose of this chapter is to speak to those who are going to be judged. And they will be judged accordingly and either will be rewarded with the kingdom of God or they'll be condemned to hell. Now, another purpose of this chapter is to bring people to the realization of the responsibilities of being a Christian. As we read with the story of the sheep and the goats, we all have the same responsibilities, but it's up to us to respond to them. So there is a purpose for each of these stories. So let's take a look at what the former faith looks at with the parable of the talents, the one that we have this week. The parable of talents has the purpose showing us that we need to be trusted with whatever it is that God gives us. Essentially, this parable is about responsibility. God gives us gifts and grace and entrusts us with things that are to be used. If we do not use them, then we are just digging a hole and burying the things that we are entrusted with. We are not multiplying. And there's other historians and what do you call them? People like seminarians or theologians, that the purpose is easy in one sentence. And this is from a theologian named Schwager. And he says, we either advance towards God or we slip back. Right? That's what this story, Parable of Talents, is. So being entrusted with certain gifts, such as talents, gives us the responsibility to do something with those gifts. God gives us the means, and all we have to do is use them. Right, so that is kind of interesting, isn't it? That this is what the former faith is looking at this verse. So now let's take a look at what Sunseam says, and this becomes much more interesting because we all know that Matthew 24 and 25 are the chapters of the Lord's second coming. And if you look at Matthew 24, even that chapter does have some parables in it, but ultimately most of it is Jesus himself speaking about the signs of the second coming. That's how different it is. But, in here, we just heard that say Matthew 24 is just also other stories. And of course, there is a story in there about the day and hour unknown and keep watch. And then at the very, very end of Matthew 24 talks about the owner of the house. If he had known when the thief would come at night, then he wouldn't have been robbed. Right? So it's telling us to be ready. But here's the thing. So when we know that this is about the Lord's second coming, Matthew 25, this parable of the talents is a huge thing. Because Sunseam explains it differently, saying that the owner is the Lord. It's the Holy Son. And the Holy Son is going on a journey. Well, now what does that mean? Well, his journey is he's going back up to heaven and he's going to come back again. Remember, Matthew 24-25 is all about the second coming. So everyone now from Matthew 24, Matthew 24 verse 3, this is actually the original question where Jesus answers from, which is they ask Jesus, when will this happen and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Everything is about Jesus' second coming. So Jesus is telling them right now, look, I am leaving you right now, right? The Holy Son is leaving you. The Messiah is leaving you right now. But I'm going to leave you something. I'm going to leave you some talents, right? I'm going to leave you some responsibility. And what you do with that is going to depend on what's going to happen when I come back again, right? So when you look at how they explain the parable of talents in the former faith, it's just like you either advance towards God or we slip back. And of course, that is true too, because it's what generally it's saying, but this is Jesus himself talking about himself. It's a parable about him telling you, guess what? I am the owner going on a long journey and I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back and I've left you with responsibility. I have left you with these talents, these gifts. And what Sunseem said this week is your aptitudes, your skills, your talents that you've developed. These have been left for you. And what will you do with them? Will you multiply them, or will you just dig a hole and do nothing with them? And when we look at this, one of the biggest things that we've been given is not just our talents and abilities, but the greatest gift we've been given is the words of God. We've all been given the words of God. And what will you do with the words? Will you dig them in a hole? What will you do with the words of God? Will you take them and multiply them by putting them into action? Will you take them, put them into action and live the life that God wants you to live as a bride of this history? Or will you hide, right? And be just like everyone else in the world? We have the talents, and we've been given such amazing words. If we don't put them into action, we just end up living like everyone else in the world. And that's what we have to change. So I'm really, really hoping that when we see that, this is, the former faith has the word. And yes, they're generally right. But when you look at what Sunseem teaches, it is so different, right? And you're like, wow, it's so much powerful. Right? And I hope that all of us too can understand from the background and what the former faith thinks about this parable, and what Sunseem teaches is so different. Okay, so that is the word study for today. I hope it's something that you guys can really enjoy, as I enjoy looking and researching these types of things too. All right, so that was the word study was looking into this week's scriptures, right? And that was Matthew chapter 25, especially the parable of the talents. All right, which means that we're going to get into the last song for today, the song of choice. Okay, and this song of choice, of course, on Tuesdays I do Korean song. I found this really, really cool group. I've never heard of them before. They're called NCTU. Okay, if you say it in Korean, it's like NCTU, right? But it's NCTU, and this song is called Universe, and Universe or Let's Play Ball. So this looks like a really good boy band. So I should have played this on Thursday, but I really like them, so I want to play them today. This is NCTU with Universe, Let's Play Ball.
Let's play ball. Yeah. Let's play ball. Do it. Yo, you're my universe. Yeah. Let's play ball. Let's play ball. Yeah. Yo, you're my universe. Yeah. What you got? Let's play ball. What you got? Let's play ball. What you got? You're my universe. What you got? What you got? Let's play ball. What you got? Let's play ball. What you got? You're my universe. What you got? What you got? Play ball. What you got? What you got? 다른 universe. What you got? What you got? Play ball. What you got? What you got? 노력하는 my universe. My game 그건 운명이란 말하지. 피어나는 미래를 느낀 거지. 혼자만은 받아낼 수 있으니. Can't you see I'm on the way. 모든 것은 시작에 관한 얘기야. 소란한 우주의 함성을 느껴봐. When you hit the floor we make the one stop. 흠뻑 빠져버리자. 빛으로 채워줘. 빛으로 채워줘. 이 어둠 어디서도 네가 찬란히 보이게. You're my world, my universe. 뭐든 할 수 있어. You're my star, my victory. 머릿속에 high five. So here we are. 하루가 부딪혀 오직 하나. 두 손처럼 빛나가 My destiny. 너를 움직이는 my ace. Yeah, nothing's gonna stop us now. What you got? What's a lot? In and out, far addicted, baby. 내 우주의 중심 모자까지. Swear to God, girl, you know you got that walk. What I got you deep with, baby, let's just spin it. I'll be singing. What you got? You got what I want. 다른 객지 속에 원했던. I know what you want. 눈에 뜨는 나의 universe. 저 별은 내 우주를 가로질러. 전혀 속으로 사라져 점착해도 남은 빛을 머무르며 우리를 어루만져. 아름다웠던 우리 둘의 아카펠라. Yeah, we about to ball out. 가끔 숨어버리는 그들의 장난. 강해져도 너만 보이잖아. Knocking on 우리 둘의 세상에. 무의미한 시간은 없어. 이 순간 들어봐. You're my world, my universe. 뭐든 할 수 있어. You're my star, my victory. 머릿속에 high five. So here we are. 달려가고 있어. 오직 하나. 유성처럼 빛나며 My destiny. 나를 움직이는 my ace. Yeah, nothing's gonna stop us now. 서로는 두렵지 않아 이 여정 있잖아.
속에 맺던 너를 껴안아 You can't hurt me now Hurt me now 부서진 빛은 또 흐름 속에 이어져 가지만 Fades away 그 누구도 감히 내 세상을 바꿀 수 없으니 You're my world, my universe 어디서 수 있어 You're my star, my victory 머릿속에 high five So here we are 달려가고 있어 오직 하나 유전처럼 빛나며 My destiny 나를 움직이는 my aim Can't nothing gonna stop us now Watch your best play ball Watch your yo, you're my universe Watch your best play ball Watch your best play ball Watch your yo, you're my universe Watch your best play ball Watch your best play ball Watch your yo, you're my universe Watch your best play ball Watch your best play ball Watch your yo, you're my universe
And there you have it. That is NCTU with Universe Let's Play Ball. And that is a Korean K-pop band, right? I think there's like 5-6 guys in it. That's quite interesting. So if you guys know anything about NCTU, let me know. This is my first time actually listening to them and hearing about them. I don't know them very well. So let me know. NCTU Universe Let's Play Ball. All right. So by the way, they all sound the same to me. All these boy bands sound exactly the same to me. Either way, we're here at the last segment for today's podcast. And of course, every Tuesday we have Let's Testify with Thuli over there in Australia. And yes, today she has another interview. So I'm super excited about this one. And this is someone that we actually interviewed on the Sunday edition. This is Julius Muyamo. And I hope that you guys will really enjoy this. So everyone, please welcome Thuli from Australia with Let's Testify.
Hey guys, this is Thuli. I'm from Australia. This is the 15th episode of Let's Testify. This is a space where you can have the opportunity to testify about 선생님, about providence, and what happens when you put the word into action. I'm really proud to present Julius from Melbourne Eternal Church today. He's been working full-time and on top of that, really putting in all of his effort into male evangelism, and God has blessed him abundantly. Today, Julius is going to share about how God completely flipped over his work situation through prayer and acting on the word. This is my third time listening to this testimony today, and I really love it. I hope that you can get something out of this too. Take it away, Julius.
Thank you very much, Julia. I'm really, really thankful to be able to share this amazing testimony that happened to me this year. It's a long story that actually it began, last year in COVID, where just before God had actually allowed me to get a job in IT. Coming from electrical engineering, I wanted to move into IT. So I was really thankful. And I just started this job just before COVID came, which was very convenient because it'd be hard to find a job in IT or transferring once COVID had hit. And I started out, I was excited, and I was planning to take my career in a particular direction and learn this, become a Python developer and do data science as well. So I had everything planned out. I'd been training and developing in this software. But then while in the company, I got put in a different stream where I had to learn this new software to do this project. I was working in IT consulting. So depending on what projects come out are available, you'd have to go into that project. So I was a little bit surprised by it, and then caught off guard. And then I was like, okay, I have to do this, and I'll be in this project for 3 months, and then I'll get out and get back to, I'll hopefully get into another project that is along the path that I want my career to go to. So I reluctantly went and I started training in this other software, and then I started this new project, which was just about the end of last year. And because I was really set on going this different direction, I really did not give this new software the time of day. And when I started the project, actually it turned out to be, it was my first project, but it was the most horrendous project you could ever imagine. And I'm sure there's worse projects out there, but this was really, really difficult. those things that went wrong in terms of the planning phase of this project. So as a result of that, actually, there was many things that went wrong. And when I got to the project, actually my quality assurance lead had actually gotten fired and was being replaced. So I was pretty much by myself during a few weeks of the start of the project because they were hiring someone else. And I had to figure all this stuff out by myself because in the project, everyone was so busy. No one had time to really help or mentor because the resources were already scarce. There was a lot of pressure in this project to deliver a product with quite an unrealistic timeline. And the software was actually not the most ideal software for what the customer wanted to build. And there's a lot of things that went wrong, and the client was very difficult and wasn't sure exactly what they wanted. So there was a lot of chaos in this project. And to give you a picture, we went through 3 different managers within the space of those 8 months I was in that project. And my time on the project kept on getting extended, and I kept on trying to find a way to get out, but for some reason, I couldn't get out. I ended up being the only team member from the original team. God had given me this job, so I was trying really hard to stay thankful. Okay, around this time now, I'd been teaching conflict and ignorance lesson to newcomers, and in that week, I taught it about 2 or 3 times. The inspiration came to me, what if I'm committing conflict and ignorance? That thought came to me because, I really did not give this software the time of day because my mind was already fixed at that point. This thought just kept on coming to me when I was teaching about how Josiah committed conflict and ignorance. Then I was attending pre-dawn service. Now, there was a song, actually, God gives revelations through nature, tries to speak to you through nature, but we just don't realize or notice it. So after hearing this message that morning, I decided to pray and ask God, should I try to leave this project or should I try and stick with this software? I asked God to give me a revelation. And then I stood outside on the balcony, taking a break. Then I see in the sky, the most shocking thing, in the sky, I just see this cloud floating away from these other clouds. This cloud had the shape and form of the logo of the software that I was actually working with. It was in the shape of a Pegasus with the wings. That was the logo of the company. And the cloud had the exact same shape. I was really, really shocked. And then I said, okay, God's given me the sign. And I was still a little bit reluctant. But then I was like, okay, let's just stick with this. I stopped trying to leave the project. And this was around mid-August, July. And I'd started the project around December last year. I tried to get myself to like the project. I just kept on trying to learn to like it. There was a point that I felt like actually giving up and stopping. But then during that week, there was a Sunday message that came that said, those who do it till the end triumph. That message gave me strength to keep going. And I decided not to give up. I just stuck to the project and then kept on trying to learn the software. Right after around the end of the 70 days prayer, actually, a lot of recruiters started contacting me all the time. I applied for one of these jobs, and one of the companies turned out to be one of the companies that my manager had gone to. And so he referred me directly, and I got this interview for this job that required someone to use the same software that I was learning called Pega. And this job, however, was, it required 2 to 3 years experience. And I'd only had just about one year's experience working with it. So even though I'd gotten the interview, I was quite worried about, how am I going to do this interview? I only barely have 1 year's experience. And in that week, actually, that I was going to do the interview, another message came out that said, who is it that helps you? It is God, the Holy Spirit, and the Lord. Yeah. Actually, this was a message that came out 1 week before my interview. Yeah, that message was all about how Sansoni was telling us to pray and ask God, and that God will do it for us. And God's not really going to consider other things. He's not going to look at your sins or other things that you did. Even though you lack condition, God's going to do it for you. So I felt less conscious about asking God for help during this time. Yeah, because always you're like, oh man, I need to do this for you, God. I haven't done things perfectly. I want to really do things perfectly before I ask you things. Sometimes I sort of felt like that. And then Konstantin gave that message, I just asked God to help me with this. In the next week, the week that I had my interview, the message came out that said, God and the Holy Spirit are absolute beings. And for those who treat them absolutely, they will treat them absolutely. When this message came out, I prayed to God. God, I absolutely believe you're going to help me in this interview and things are going to go well. I believe in you. And it was already a miracle that I'd gotten the interview. I prayed this prayer. Then I went for the interview, and the interview was very difficult. It seemed like it went poorly, and I was really disappointed at the end of the interview. However, the very next day, they ended up calling me back straight away and said that I actually got the job. And this job, they were offering me almost double my salary, almost double. However, I sort of felt that I could push my luck a bit more given the message of the week. So I actually ended up asking for more. I went back and forth with negotiating, and they were telling me, yeah, you have 1 year's experience. This is pretty good deal. But I said, I think if we go for this amount, which was slightly high, then I'll be happy with that. And then so they called me back and then ended up giving me double my salary. It's really amazing. I don't think I would have the audacity to ask that if the message was different that week. So I was really, really thankful. Like, this is unbelievable. I'm getting this kind of job that's beyond my years of experience and double my salary. And I've been in IT not even 2 years. This experience really reminded me actually when Sansonim spoke about how God takes out the competition when he was delivering a Sunday message that also involved conflict and ignorance. That's exactly what happened to me, because a big reason of why I was able to get the job is because this job required an Australian citizen, because it was for the government, who knew this particular software. And I was among the few people who actually got trained who was an Australian citizen. And they needed a lot. So that's how I was able to get the job despite my years of experience. It was really amazing. I really realized just the power of the word. The word really happens in reality, no matter where you are and what the situation is. And I realized you really do have to trust God, because when he's helping you at times, it's really hard to know. Even when he's putting you on the path to bless you and help you, you really have to trust God. Yeah. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really an amazing testimony. Thank you so much, Julius.
Thanks, Julia.
It really opens our eyes up to how the word becomes reality through prayer and action.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Julia.
And I really wish everybody a great festive season and a happy new year.
Yeah.
Peace.
And thank you so much, Tuli, over there in Australia, for another wonderful episode of Let's Testify. And yes, man, this is really good. This segment's really growing. It originally started with talking about other great figures in the world that went through persecution for doing something great. Even after that, now we're talking to people testifying about how they overcame slander or the great things of putting the words into action and showing people and testifying to people that this word is that great. So really love how it's evolving, this segment. All right. So great job. Let's testify. If you guys have any comments, if you want anything below for Julius or for Tuli, go ahead and leave in the comments below. Okay. So that leads us to the end of today's segment. Hope you guys really enjoyed today's Tuesday episode. Everyone have an amazing and awesome day. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone.